Hi everyone, I'm Amanda here with Lotus Care at Home, and I have brought Craig Temple, my wonderful attorney, here to do the podcast with me. He's going to be giving you guys a lot of information. He's going to be very real with you guys. He's going to let you guys know what's going on. Craig does construction, contracts, family law. Did I miss anything?
Business
Oh, and
litigation,
business
business
litigation,
support. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Craig, we're so happy to have you here, and welcome to Lotus Care at Home in our podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's my
Appreciate it.
pleasure, Craig. Thank you so much for making time to be here with us today. I know that a lot of people now use ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT for everything. My team, we already have a ChatGPT strategy for Lotus Care at Home. The importance of having an attorney, I will let Craig explain, but the importance of not doing your contracts and not doing certain things, and especially legal things through ChatGPT, I feel like is now like a huge wave that's coming now of a lot of people that are just trusting in the new AI and the new ChatGPT that's coming out. And I think it's great. It's wonderful. But as we both know, it's not 100% accurate, right, Craig?
No, it's not, and that's the issue. Is that these services, Chat and Grok and Gemini and others, their realm of information is not bound in a specific way. So they make reference to a source that might be just somebody's post on X or Facebook or Insta or something. And it's not a verified source of information, but it'll factor that information into its response and treat it as though it's been verified, that it's valid information and actually useful to you. And the result is that you can get information that misguides you and has bad consequences. And so the way to circumvent that is, I tell clients and I encourage clients to use AI pretty frequently as a starting point, like your common non-legal research type AIs will give you like a reasonable frame of reference about a subject matter you know nothing about. But challenge the AI on a subject matter that you know very, very well, and ask it questions on things that you can anticipate, or the response that you would anticipate that it give you. And you're going to see that it's going to overemphasize things that you think are not very important. It's going to underemphasize things that you think are really important because you know your field so well. And it's going to point out things that you're like, well, that makes sense. And so you have to use it with caution at this point. As professionals, we use AI tools. For example, in my firm, we use a product called LexisNexis, and but that's a fully closed-loop legal system with completely verified information. It doesn't have access. It doesn't rely on Facebook or Grok or these type of social media posts or news stories, some newscaster's interpretation of a series of events and what's relevant and what's not. No, it relies on verified information. And so that's a lot more reliable. But even still, it's not 100%. And so in our practice, meaning in the practice of being a lawyer, both the Florida bar as well as judges and others are having conferences about use of AI and what our professional obligations are to confirm information we're relying on. And earlier on, there were times where attorneys were drafting briefs using AI tools, but those AI tools are citing to cases that don't exist. The case that they're referring to is a fantasy.
Wow.
And yet they'll put that in a brief as though that case actually exists when it doesn't. And when challenged to produce the case, the attorney's like, well,
I can't produce it for you.
And so there's a lot of caution going on right now amongst the professionals in this space, saying, hey, make sure you put your eyes on each and every source that you're citing to, and make sure it says what you think it's saying.
No, 100%. And I think that even for my team in like the healthcare industry, there's a lot of that too. In the medical field, I mean, especially me, I'm using AI for a lot of different things now. But I have warned and cautioned my entire team to be very careful because not all of it is accurate. Not all of it is from reliable sources. And I And I'm so happy that when I first talked to you, I don't remember when that was, but you were like, us attorneys, we have a specific AI that we use that is like closed, sealed. And I thought that I was like, that's amazing. And because I even have asked another attorney friend of mine that actually is in the space that I'm in, and she's like, oh, just run it through ChatGPT. And I'm like, why would I, I'm asking you because you're an attorney, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's very important for any business owner, not just if you're in the healthcare space, any business owner. This is Craig Temple. He's in contracting and construction contracts, and he's also doing family law. Craig, I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm thankful that you're here. I feel like you have a lot to offer. And one is you being an attorney, the years that you have under your belt, and two, you are a person that I do admire. You've come a long way. You've tried a lot of different businesses in your life as well, and I think that you have a lot to offer. As I told you, I talk to a lot of single moms, mothers, women in general that are trying to get into business or have been through different situations, divorce. I know that's something that you also deal with. Mothers that are dealing with, situations with CPS. Women that have just been dealt the wrong cards in life and need an attorney to be able to go to court, to be able to, do whatever it is that they need to do for their kids or for themselves when they're going through these hard times. And also entrepreneurs. I speak to entrepreneurs all day long, and I do a lot of mentorships as well. So, and some people don't understand the perplexuality of contracts and the importance that they are in your business, and that you could lose your entire business because of a bad contract. Am I
Yeah.
correct or am I not correct?
Yeah. There's a lot there to unpack, but yeah, contracts is one of the base courses that they teach in law school, and we spend as people in training in law school, we spend approximately 32 weeks of our 3 years after undergrad. You go to 3 years of law school. We spend 32 weeks on contracts, on the subject matter of contracts, and contracts. You could ask most business people, and I
Ask
think,
me.
and I believe I
Ask
asked
me,
you,
Craig.
right?
I sent you my contract that was like 4 pages. You're like, this needs 35 more pages added to it.
Well,
And I thank you for that, because a lot of us we're misguided sometimes, or we trust a friend or somebody who's doing another business or a consultant. In my world, we have a lot of consultants that are out here giving us policies and procedures and contracts that are not. They might look great in the healthcare industry, but on a legal standpoint, they don't, like my contract. It didn't cover all the bases, right?
right, that's right. If you ask 10 lawyers for 10 opinions on a single contract, you'll get 10 different opinions. There's going to be some commonalities, but if you ask 10 lawyers what defines a contract, like what is a contract, you'll get a clear answer,
What's
and
your
they'll
answer,
be able
Craig?
to identify for you the elements of a contract, and they're really simple. It sounds really simple. There's three parts: offer, acceptance, and consideration. Now, learning what an offer, acceptance, consideration is,
You gotta go to law school.
you're going to have to go to law school for that one. But they are terms of art. They have significant meaning. All three must be present to actually have a contract. Um, and lawyers can answer that question with relative ease. I could ask, and I've asked CFOs of publicly traded companies, CEOs of substantial companies, and people, clients of all types. What's a contract? And there's commonality in the belief of what it is, but it's never offer, acceptance, and consideration. Which is as lawyers, that's part of the way we assess things. We're looking at things. What are the elements of specific things? Something really common, which in your profession exists. You think of something like negligence. Uh, and people throw that term around very loosely. Oh, that's negligent. You were negligent. They don't know what negligence is. Negligence has four parts: duty, breach, causation, damages. And all four have to exist. And you got to know what duty is. You got to know what the breach is, et cetera. And with that being said, um, the what people think of law versus what lawyers think of law, There's a huge disparity there.
I can agree.
All right. And so using AI as a tool, like for contracts, I don't think is a bad place to start. I have clients all the time say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this business endeavor. We've pulled together, my proposed partner and I have pulled together like a proposed operating agreement. This is what we're thinking. Would you look it over?" And it'll have some things that are relevant in there and important, but more often than not, it's going to forget about things that only years of experience are really going to teach you that they're really important. Um, an example of that might be a venue provision or an indemnification provision, and how far an indemnification provision might go. As an employer, um, you often will have to carry workers' comp.
Yeah.
And so if someone's injured on the job, they'll turn to workers' comp for compensation to help them with their injuries or medical expenses, time lost at work, et cetera. And under Florida law, that's their exclusive remedy. Their exclusive remedy for an injury on the job is through workers' comp. However, imagine your company is on a project, and I represent contractors, so often. Imagine you're on a project and you've contracted with an HOA or a property management company, and you're on a project with your employees, I don't know, painting a building. And one of your employees falls off a ladder and gets injured on the job. The remedy for that employee is to go to work, turn to workers' comp, file the claim, and be compensated through workers' comp. However, they may have a claim against the property owner and against the management company because of something that happened on the property that they think was in part caused by the property owner or property management company. And so even though their exclusive remedy against the employer is through workers' comp, they still may have a claim against the management company or property owner under a theory of negligent maintenance or some other idea. However, if they sue them, if that injured person sues them, they may sue the employer, meaning the management company or the property owner may sue the employer under contractual indemnification. And contractual indemnification is just, you agree that if something bad happens on this project that you're in any way responsible for, that you're going to indemnify us and hold us harmless from whatever that is.
So like even somebody opening up a business, like for example, when they do like a revamp of their space, or they do a rehab of the space that they're redoing it, and they have contractors working out there, this is something that they could definitely go through. I know people who gut out entire spaces and they turn them, you know what I mean, into beautiful offices or salons or whatever it is that they're doing. So this is something that definitely could happen to somebody who's trying to get into business and is doing these things, and they're working under, well, they're renting from a building, and then they're bringing in their own contractors to work. So it can get very, very complex and very complicated.
And the
From
contractors
what I'm
bring in
understanding, wow, no, I'm very happy that I found you. I'm very happy that you're my attorney. Craig is my attorney, you guys.
Thank you.
No, yes, I am, and I think that more people that are getting into business and more people that are trying to do more, but they need to do it right from the very beginning. I wish I would have gone to an attorney, and I had an attorney that I would send him, hey, can you review this document for me, or hey, can you redo this and that for me? But I created my own contract off of just me pulling different information, and I wish I would have had someone like you that I could have sat down with years ago when I first started my business and said, hey, this is what I do. I need you to look up the laws and the regulations of the state. I need you to make sure that everything that, my clients cannot solicit my caregivers, and that my caregivers cannot solicit my clients. And what happens if something happens while a caregiver is caring for a patient? Because if they're an employee or an independent contractor, it's different. So there's a lot of legalities that go into owning a business. What I do, which is the healthcare side, nursing care, it's very clinical. You're dealing with people's licenses. We deal with level 2, governmental background checks. Like for me, it's very, very tedious that I have you. But for other business owners and for people getting into different types of business, I feel like people don't appreciate legal advice and having legal help on call, kind of like having an attorney with like you that I gave you a retainer and I can send you and call your office whenever I need you to, because you never know when something's gonna pop up. You never know when a client's gonna want to sue you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot of people think of attorneys, you know, in the world of like litigation, and they don't realize that behind most successful businesses, there are attorneys and other professional consultants that are providing advice and guidance to the people that are formed and managing, running these companies. You know, the CEO can't know everything any more than I can know everything. And so it takes a team to build a company, to do so cohesively and competently, to insulate yourself from liabilities, mitigate liabilities, to help manage the business itself in a way that's secure, that's within the confines of the law. You know, I see, I've over the years, I've come across businesses. I think what I see real frequently is there are partnerships. People engage in partnerships, and you know, it's their friend that they grew up with. They've got a 15, 20, 30-year relationship. They're friends. They trust each other implicitly, and because of that trust, there's no operating agreement.
No,
There's no partnership agreement. There's no investment agreement.
nothing.
There's no capital contributions
I love her
agreements.
so much. She's my best friend, Craig.
Right.
And then what's crazy is that you get into business. I went into business with a family member of mine, and it went excruciatingly bad because the color of the paint could even be a problem.
Right.
So, and then I recommend that you don't ever go into business with friends or with family. If you're going to employ friends and family, they need to understand that you're the boss and that you're in charge. Don't employ anybody who's going to second guess or question what you're doing in your own business, or somebody who's going to not want to do things legally the right way. Because I'm very black and white. I know we've talked about this before, but
Yeah.
I feel like, especially what you're saying, like partnerships and stuff like that, that's something that can go either very beautifully or it can go horrifyingly wrong.
It sure can. And you know, it's everything at the beginning, everyone's optimistic.
beautiful.
There's, you know, it's beautiful. Everybody's working cohesively. Their patience is, you know, they have tremendous patience and tolerance for everything. And then if you're fortunate enough to have a successful business, then when the money is flowing and distributions are taking place and people begin to use the company credit card in a way that doesn't benefit the business, it's just like personal expenses, or you know, maybe they're doing other things that are inconsistent with the goals of the company, and you have a falling out of sorts. If you don't have things in writing where you have the clarity, then you're just relying on memory.
Yep.
And memory may be completely honest. It may be that you know, neither one of you have nefarious intent. However, you just may remember things differently. 6 months, a year, 5 years down the road, you just may recall the conversation differently, honestly and earnestly. And no operating agreement, that's not a position you want to be in.
So
Yeah.
I know a good amount of people that have gone into business together, Craig, and I can tell you exactly what you said about the expenses is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
And two, I feel like when people go into business, like in the beginning, like you said, they're optimistic, they're happy, they're excited, but at the same time, one might pull more than the other. One might work more than the other. And so when the money starts rolling in, even the person that sometimes finances a business for someone else, let's just say you and I go into business together right now. You're going to finance a Lotus, and I'm going to work the Lotus for you. But then I get upset because I'm working all day long and I'm busting my behind to bring in patients and to open up and to deal with ACA and documentation and paperwork and everything. And then you're just at home because you gave me the money and you're waiting for me to pay you and you're calling me every month asking me where your cut is.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of people they get into those tiffs sometimes as well because one pulls harder than the other. So having an attorney that's going to sit down, that's going to write an operating agreement, right? Even if you have a contract that says we're both the business owner, an operating agreement, doesn't it outline and define what each person is expected to do, what their percentages are? That's what an operating agreement is, correct? From my
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, it does a lot of different things, even controlling just where the books and records of the company are located,
Yes.
what's expected of one another, how you're going to deal with capital calls, if capital contributions are needed once the company's up and running, who's responsible for credit lines, if any are taking, who's responsible for the day-to-day operations, marketing, the filing tax returns, interfacing with the public at an important level, like if you have to deal with the IRS or something like that, who's going to speak on behalf of the company? Those kinds of things are things a lot of people don't think about, don't put a lot of attention to. But when you sit down and create an operating agreement, really that's what you're doing. You're ironing out those details that you haven't maybe even considered, but you're forced to when you're reading through it as a partner in a business, you're forced to look through it and actually consider each of the things that are there, and it helps make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, no, 100%. And if you guys don't agree with each other from the very beginning, really need to sit down and consider if you guys even want to go into business together. Okay, so I have a question for you. So you dealing with so many different business contracts. I know you mentioned to me that you're in construction too, so I'm sure that's hectic. My dad's an engineer, so I get it. Construction guys are fun.
I like engineers. They're technical.
Yeah, they're very technical. Oh my God, my father's like
They're great at like the math,
yes,
the math of everything. Yeah. So.
yes. But what I was gonna ask you is that you dealing with seeing so many different types of structures of business and just people in business. Do you recommend partnership or solo?
That's tough.
Yeah.
There's a balance. There's a balance there. You may be considering doing a project on your own because you feel like you have all the skill set, the resources available to you, and if all of that pans out to be true, then maybe solo is your best option, at least initially, because you get to, you're the one who's putting everything on the line, committing your money, your time, your energy, your reputation, and so there are people in my circle that I respect wholeheartedly, and they're brilliant people, and one of them I think of specifically, and he doesn't even give recommendations.
Mm.
He won't refer people to anyone.
Do you know why?
Because he doesn't want to attach his reputation and his expertise and his name to anyone that he doesn't control. And so, there's
It's funny because I feel like you're talking about me
threshold
right
there.
now.
There's a threshold there, and
Yes.
of confidence, but not confidence maybe, but I want to say confianza, which is, in Spanish,
You can do the
loosely
Spanglish here. We love
translated,
it.
is, it's, having, faith and belief and confidence in someone else. And, if you refer someone and then that relationship goes sideways somehow in business or otherwise, then there's some stigma that can come back on you. He's very, very concerned about that, and so he doesn't. I have clients and friends, others that are much more open to it. And so I started to say that if you have all the resources, skill set, and everything to do it, and you really want to commit to it, then you may do that. But often the project is bigger because we're, as entrepreneurs, we're always thinking big, and sometimes it takes a team to tackle the task that you're wanting to undertake.
Okay, so the way I see it is a little bit different because of my own, obviously, my experiences with business and just with people in general. So I agree with your friend, whoever he is. I need to meet him one day. Please, Craig, set that up. No, but I agree with him. When you refer somebody, it's a lot of people say, I don't like to refer because I don't know what that person's going to do or how they're going to act or what the outcome's going to be. And it's attached to you and your name. Right. Because you sent the person or because you tried to help somebody out. I'm a big helper. I still help a lot of people, but I do it as a gift. I'm not helping you to help somebody else anymore. Like, this person's available for this. If you want to call them, go ahead. But I have nothing to do with that person. I don't even know that person. That's how I kind of,
Right.
pass this stuff on, pass on information. But when it comes to partnerships, the way I see it and the way that I've built Lotus is I'm the only owner of Lotus. I think as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you should do business on your own. Because bringing in a second person changes a lot of things, but you need to find a second. And your second needs to be somebody who loves to do all the things that you hate to do for your business. Right?
Yeah.
So I have an assistant and she does all the stuff that I don't have time to do. But then I have my second in my office, which she oversees all the operations for me and everything for me so that I'm able to overscale my eagle's eye view of the company, and I'm also able to do what I do best, which is marketing and sales, and bring in the business to my company and carry out my reputation in the hospital. But I think as a business owner, if you're going to go into business and if you're passionate about something or you're finding what you love to do, you should do it on your own and then hire somebody and teach them your way, guide them to the way that you want to do things, and then have that person oversee everything for you and do all the things that you don't like to do. So you can do everything that you still love to do, but have somebody else overseeing it. And I mean, not that you would want to get rid of that employee after you train them for so long, but I do think that it's safer to do it on your own, on a ownership standpoint. On like a board member standpoint, something different, but me personally.
I don't know that I disagree with you.
Really?
I'm
Thank you.
just a lawyer traumatized by all of the experiences. I think lawyers, who are active thinkers, and we learn at scale. Um, it's like a judge sitting on a bench. I might have at any given time 50, 60 pieces of litigation that I'm dealing with and I'm responsible for. But judges in Miami-Dade County, Broward County might have 1,000, 1,500 cases that are on their docket and that they're overseeing. And you can't necessarily be in all places at once, and scale is important. I know that in my experience in business, my most successful businesses were businesses that I started, ran, operated by myself with some professional guidance from people like accountants and attorneys and even engineers and architects because of the different businesses that I've been involved in. So you use consultants, legitimate, qualified consultants, not my uncle Vinny, my cousin
But even with a
Tina.
consultant, you need to run it by the attorney.
Right.
100%. Any documents that a consultant's telling you, hey, this is how you get licensed, or this is how you do this, you need to make sure that it's correct and that legally it's a document that you can put in front of people and have them sign.
Yeah.
And that it's not going to contradict. Remember, because when I sent you my contract, what did I tell you? I need this to benefit both sides, but I need you to make sure that this keeps me safe and keeps me protected. So I feel like when you do a contract from your Uncle Vinny, you're not fully protected, But with a good attorney, wherever whoever's watching this is from, and if they're going to seek legal advice, I mean, they definitely need to. I feel every business owner should have attorney, somebody on a retainer, and they should have somebody overseeing your stuff just to make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted.
I think you said something important there, and you used the term "good attorney."
Yes.
And it's tough necessarily to identify what a good attorney is, but in the world of like receiving legal advice in support of your business, I think good attorneys manage to keep you out of litigation. That's their focus needs to be truly focused on your company's best interests and how to mitigate risk where risk can be mitigated, how to, plant ideas in your mind as an entrepreneur to give you food for thought and allow you to process, exposure and whatnot. I redline contracts pretty frequently for clients, and I give them a redline version to look at, and I'll give them the completed version with the changes already made. And the purpose for giving them the redline version is just to give them a clear indication of what I'm keying on what I think needs to be removed, added, etc. What I see often in contracts, and I've managed hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in business transactions. I'm surprised by some of the numbers. A single contract might be $800 million, $300 million. I mean, there's a massive responsibility. You have other intelligent people relying on you for review and for assessment, and then decisions have to be made once we propose changes to contracts. Well, what I see very frequently is attorneys who have never done business are providing business and legal advice to their clients. And meanwhile, they went from high school to undergrad to law school, and then law school to some practice somewhere, and they've never run a business in their life. And so when they're tasked with contract review, they do things very, very one-sided because, oh, I'm protecting my client. Well, you don't have to protect your client to the detriment of the other party.
100%.
And all you do by doing that is you alienate the other party who your client's trying to do business with, and now they're reviewing an egregious contract, and your client looks like they're trying to take advantage of the other party. And this might, you run the risk of blowing the deal up, destroying the relationship that your client has going on with another party. And so there's some responsibility there, and I've seen it happen several times. I've seen deals that needed to be blown up because the due diligence doesn't check out on parties that are involved or other reasons. And I've seen deals blow up because the attorneys are overzealous in what they're doing. And so they just don't understand business. They may be right in the legal position that they're taking, but they're advising their client to take a legal position that's rigid and actually harms the opposing party.
I feel like that goes into having common sense too. You know what I mean? Because you have to see what the benefit is for your client, but you also have to see what your client is coming to you for, what they need their contract for. Because if they're trying to do business with somebody and you're annihilating a contract and making it only beneficial for your client and for the, like we just said, for the other person, that actually happened to me one time. I'm not gonna lie to you. It did happen to me, and the girl backed out from the business from me. And that was the one time that I think I was going to be going into a partnership before I did it with a family member. I was going to go into a partnership with her. And she felt like, and I had an attorney do it, and I didn't even read it, to be honest.
Yeah,
Being honest, okay?
You put your faith in the attorney.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, my attorney checked it. This is going to benefit both of us, because I say the same thing every time. Make sure that it benefits me, but it's fair. You know what I mean? And she felt like I was trying to take advantage of her. She felt, because she brought the brains of the operation and I was putting the money, and so she was going to run the business for me, and I was going to put the money and come in whenever I can and have somebody from my team supervise the situation. And so it really did blow up in my face one time. So thank you for bringing that up and saying that, because it's happened to me.
So part of good attorneys, I think, is attorneys that'll keep you out of the courtroom and out of litigation, but also help guide you to a place where you can do business in a secure way that protects your business interests. And then if things go sideways and you end up having to deal with litigation, then you've got a solid contract that identifies what the obligations of the parties are and a process for resolving the dispute.
Yes. There has to always be a process.
Yeah.
Always.
You know, my little wife, she's an esthetician, and she's a tiny little thing. I absolutely adore her. She's beautiful in all ways. Amazing woman. But you know, she's an esthetician, and so she thinks about things a little less like rigidly and like structured and 2 + 2 and like, you know, how some lawyers' minds think. And she said to me, you know, she says, babe, you have to remember, all problems, with the exception essentially of death, all problems have solutions.
Yes.
Focus on the solution, not so much on the problem.
Because the problem's already happening. So why are you going to focus on it? You need to get yourself
Right.
out of the problem.
Right. And I'm like, well, I love that. I really do love that. But good attorneys are trying to anticipate those problems and avoid them from occurring to begin with. And then proper contract formation helps you identify the solution. How do you deal with a situation when it does come up?
No, yeah, I definitely think that everybody should have an attorney because there's some things that we don't know how to get through. And especially in a business like a complex business, or if you're trying to get in any type of business that has specific legal things that you need to make sure that you are covering all your bases. I don't know if you run a business and you don't have an attorney. I don't know how you've made it this far. To be honest, I
And you
mean,
might have
I
more than one,
I feel strongly about that. I also wanted to ask you a couple questions in reference to, because I do have a lot of women that I help and I support, and I bring them up, and I like the Lotus flower, and we've talked about this before too. But on the family side that you do, on the legal side, I know that that's something very close to your heart. Craig has two beautiful daughters. You heard him just talking about his wife. He's very pro woman, and he has beautiful grandchildren. But like, if you were to give advice, just in general, to a woman going through, it doesn't even have to be divorce, a woman just dealing with a difficult situation with her children, and needing legal advice. I don't know the different types of things. I don't know if it's just divorce that you do, or you do family, everything that has to do with mothers and children and husbands and divorce and everything, right?
everything's a term. That's a tough term to use as a lawyer,
I'm
but
sorry.
yeah, I definitely deal with a lot of different types of family law matters, and I do so out of personal interest in the
Okay.
space.
So what would be your
Um,
best piece of advice?
gosh, it. I think what I see commonly
Okay.
um, in today's day, often children are born outside of wedlock,
Okay.
outside of a marriage, and so you see a lot of that going on. So I could maybe refer to something like that,
Okay.
so that we have a
There's a lot of single moms that watch me, and a lot of women that want to get into business, but they also have kids,
right.
and they deal with different situations, and maybe they didn't choose the right person to be the father of their children,
Yeah.
out of wedlock and stuff like that. That these things happen, and then they have no idea what to do, or they're scared to call an attorney because they think it's going to cost too much money, or they don't. They don't. I mean, I don't know what different situations.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you've seen them all. So
Yeah, a lot. Like I think that as like general advice, if in this kind of a scenario, in terms of like where you were in a relationship with a guy and you've had a child out of wedlock, I think number one, it's extremely important for women to realize, and men, that um, both parents. The law starts with the premise that both parents have a right, an equal right to time sharing with the child. As long as they're a positive influence on that child, the psychologists agree, the law agree that mom and dad should have equal time sharing with the child. They should endeavor to keep the child out of adult affairs. Don't use the child as a tool to investigate, like who is he with, or when you're with your dad, does he have a girlfriend,
that creates
that
trauma.
kind of thing, and vice
Yeah.
versa. The guys do that too. Oh, who's she with, and where did you guys do? And so the law, the psychologists are focused on what's in the child's best interest. So my simple advice would be, you know, you have to be adults and you need to function like adults. And when a little child is present, they need to know that mom loves them, dad loves them, and they need to be left out of the drama.
Yes.
You
No,
know?
100%. I actually left my daughter's dad when she was 9 months old, and it was one of the hardest things that I ever did.
Yeah.
I was petrified, let me tell you. But I will tell you something, it's the best thing I ever did because I realized my parents were divorced when I was young too. So I was very happy with my mom and I was very happy with my dad when I was with them separately. They didn't have a good relationship, and I always wanted to change that because until they turn 18, I mean, you guys have to be in each other's face all the time, but even when they get married, when they have their own children, when they have a dinner at their home, Christmas, you're still going to see this person.
Yeah.
And I see how my daughter has flourished because I've maintained a good relationship with him and the spouse that he's had.
Right.
And I've made sure that she's happy in my house and in his home, and that and in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the best co-parent, but him and I did come to Hey, like you just said, you have to do what's the best thing for her. And I remember when we went to court, that's all they talked about.
Yeah.
The child's best interest is this. The
Yeah.
child's best interest is that. So the court doesn't care about what mom has to say, what dad has to say. What they care about is your children. And for you to be able to provide a sanctuary for your child and a peaceful place for your child, you have to be, or try to be as best on good terms, like what you're saying, as you can,
Civility.
because the turmoil, it's trauma. It's traumatizing for the kids. I remember my parents. I mean, we grew up in a different time, but my parents, when they would see each other, it was like I wanted the world to swallow me whole,
Yeah.
because they would fight and they would go at each other, and I would just want to disappear. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, here's a if you like AI, you could use AI to look that kind of thing up and how traumatic childhoods impact children and impact their futures, their earning, their social skills, their ability to focus. I mean, it has tremendous detrimental impact on the children. And it's not what they're brought into this world for. You've got to really consider that what their best interests are, and that requires you to be an adult. All right, he cheated on you, or she cheated on you, or she spends too much money, or he's got a gambling habit. All right, great. The adult relationship is over. Accept that. Be prepared to move on like adults. Part company. Don't put the kid in the middle of the, disparaging you're disparaging the child's father to the child, telling the child, your dad's this or your dad's that, or telling the child, conversely, the dad telling the child, hey, your mother is this or your mother
Yeah,
is that. Man, it's so detrimental to the
I
to the
agree.
children. So my strongest bit of advice when children are involved is keep them out of the drama. And I'm telling you, Florida law and the judges focus on what's in the child's best interest. Judges in general could care less if she cheated or he cheated. They don't care. It doesn't mean anything to them. It doesn't have substantive legal significance. I don't know that I said that right, but doesn't have real legal significance. With little exception, there are exceptions to it being relevant here in Florida, but to whether it's relevant or not. But keep the child out of it.
I
That's
agree.
that's the very best advice I could
And
give
I
you.
wanted to add one more thing, just because I'm in the healthcare space. Your child's mental health is extremely important. Mental health is a huge thing.
Oh,
And mental health is scary, because somebody could have mental health issues and you would never know. And so our children, since they're receptive, since they're sponges, since they take from every environment that we place them in, with my daughter, I'm very intentional of what I do with her and how I do it. That being school, sports, my conversations with her, the way I'm teaching her to do things, business, whatever it is, I'm very intentional. Why? Because I would rather teach my daughter the way that I project that she's going to do better off in the world, and put her in places and in situations that she's going to be better off in the world, than allowing the world to raise my daughter for me. And our children are they become who they become because of the situations, their friends, the school, the area that you have them in, the upbringing that they're given. A lot of kids, I mean, I don't know, sometimes we do get out of those situations and we do better, the majority of us, especially the ones that are in the bad situations. But we are, what is the word I'm looking for?
product
We're
of our
we're
environment.
a product of our environment, and that goes for you, for me, for anybody on the face of this earth, where we were raised, how we were up, our upbringing, our parents, everything plays into who we are now as adults. And thank you for
Yeah.
that, because I feel like a lot of families and parents, it's like a fog that happens to you when you're going through that situation, and you don't realize that your little baby is just there watching everything happen, and just receiving all of that energy, and it plays out later on in life. I'm a product of that as well, so thank you.
Self-love matters
Yes.
in this too, it's
Yes, you
like,
are very right.
and that's what drives people. No, nobody gets together with someone, has a child, married, has a child, builds a life together, goes into that wanting a divorce,
No.
wanting a separation, wanting that child to grow up with parents who are separated. They don't want that. Sometimes because of circumstances, because of the way things have evolved in the relationship, that's the appropriate and reasonable thing to do, both for love of yourself, love of your child, maybe even love of the other person. The relationship may have become toxic, and there isn't a way out of that toxicity You know, I always say, you know, both love and war requires two sides, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can love someone, you know, endlessly, but if they don't love you back, you know, it's that relationship's not
Yeah,
working,
the war's over.
or you can
The
be.
love is over,
That's
you
right.
know?
That's
And you have
exactly
to be
right.
accepting to that. I've learned that too, that you have to meet people where they are and you have to let people do whatever it is that they're going to do.
Yeah.
And then you respond and then you act and then you do.
Well, you have control over what you do. So life is,
Yes.
you know, I always say, you know, life isn't about what happens to you because life happens to every single one of us.
I believe that a lot of things
You
happen for us, not
know,
to us.
male,
I do believe that.
female,
Yeah.
old, young,
All of
white,
us.
black, Latin, whatever. Life is going to happen to you. So life is about how you respond to what happens to you. And so only you have control over how you respond to things. People say, oh, you know, she made me lose control. No, she did something that provoked you, and you allowed your own emotions
To take
to
over.
take over and stopped using your good senses.
I know that a lot of women do go through situations like that. So if you are going through a situation like that, you should definitely either call Craig Temple or no, Craig, you're gonna see this is gonna go great. Listen, I trust him. You guys can trust him, but this is not paid programming.
Yeah.
But yes, most definitely, I know there's a lot of people that are scared and they're in situations. I employ a lot of women that have been through a lot of different situations, and I've helped them evolve. I've helped them grow. I've helped them see life differently. Self-love, what he just said, I don't know how I didn't say it first. That's first and foremost. You have to love yourself, and then you can love everybody else. Because if you don't love yourself, you don't have anything to give. And if giving too much love and not loving yourself, you drain your own battery, you drain your own energy, and everybody else just taking and taking and taking, and what's left for you is almost nothing. And we have to do better for ourselves, especially men. You know what I mean? The ones that are in the situations that you guys need to do that, but especially women. I see that a lot across the board, and I really think that we need you guys. I love myself so much; it's ridiculous. But you guys need to love. If you don't love yourself even more, no one's gonna love you more than you love yourself. So thank you, Craig,
Yeah.
for saying that.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to add to that because you know, you mentioned a lot of people are kind of scared to reach out to an
Yes.
attorney. They think it's going to cost them a bunch of money. A lot of law firms, not just mine, a lot offer free consultations. And it might be a short 15, 20, 30-minute conversation. Um, I tend to be pretty generous with my time. I mean, if I'm buried, my schedule's
I can
hectic.
second to that. He'll
So,
talk for an hour
you
with me
know,
if I need it.
I'm willing to engage and have the conversation that needs to be had. And so sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a little longer. But I can't tell you throughout my career how many times someone who's come to me, and towards the end of the consult, they say, you know, thank you so much. You've just opened my eyes to what the possibilities are here. I thought this was going to be, you know, far different. You know, he said he hired the very best attorney in the world, and she said she hired the very best attorney, and they're going to take everything, and they're going to bury me, and I'm never going to be able to see my kids, and all of the craziness that goes on. And at least during my consults, I try to provide. I collect data, collect as much information I can, and I provide some feedback that helps calm the anxiety and give you a lot more clarity with information you can rely on.
Yeah,
You know,
100%. Because at the end of the day, Craig, we don't know what we don't know.
that's right.
And so if you don't know what you're supposed to do, and the only thing that you do know is whatever thought came to your mind or whatever it is that you found out that you could do, but there could be 10 other options. I've gone through this with you myself. There's more options of different things and different ways that you can handle certain situations. You guys, legal counsel, I'm telling you, in any different part of your life, you need an attorney. If you were to give a piece of advice to somebody opening a business, a new business, or someone who's already been in business for a while and they've never contacted an attorney, they've never had any legal advice on their business, they've never had anybody review their contracts. I mean, I'm gonna 100% recommend that you guys do that, but what's the best piece of advice that you could give them? Besides call an attorney.
Yeah, I think recognize that there are limits to your own capacities and your own knowledge, your own frame of reference. You may be the best logistics company in the world, but I assure you, if you haven't had a qualified attorney go through your contracts. Um, your contracts may be good. They're not going to be great. They're not going to address important and relevant issues that um, a competent attorney is going to include or exclude from contracts. It just as it relates to contracts, but generally speaking, um, I think anybody running a substantial company is probably a reasonably intelligent, articulate person, and they realize the limits of their own capacities. And so you won't, like, for example, you may use me for legal consult and advice, but you probably also have an accountant,
Yes.
and you probably
And a
have,
consultant.
right, that's right.
Hmm.
And so
Takes a village.
when you're making business decisions, I sit in meetings sometimes where there's 5 different kinds of lawyers in the room. There's a forensic accountant, a tax specialist. There's and then there are a broad spectrum of professionals that hold different positions within that company, perhaps within other companies. And we all may be a cohesive unit working on the same project, all with the same interests in mind, or we may be 2 different entities being represented by 2 different teams of professionals. And there's a lot of opinion there. And but it exists for a reason. You can do it. You can do things the right way, and rely on people qualified to advise you. Or you can guess your way through it, cross your fingers, and hope nothing comes up. And
And
when it
enjoy the
does,
ride.
it may derail your entire company. You
That
know,
could happen. That could definitely happen. So you are, and I think this is great for this too. So you're an attorney, but you also own your own practice.
yeah.
So not only are you an attorney, you're also a CEO. I've known you have had other businesses before, but you're also a CEO of your own. So you went to law school for the amount of time that you went to law school. You passed the bar, and then you opened up your own business. So there's other attorneys out there that are now probably working under other attorneys, or attorneys that are in school right now, and maybe they think that owning their own practice is going to be difficult because not only do you have to be an attorney to all of your clients, oversee your paralegals, oversee your receptionists, and everybody else you have in your office, but you also have to be an owner, and you have to make sure that you're making payroll, and you have to make sure that you are overseeing your business and running your business correctly. So, with that being said, Craig, how have you made this happen for yourself? Because you're extremely successful. You've done amazing things with what you've been able to do. You've changed lives along the way. So, how have you done it? And what is another attorney or a doctor or somebody that wants to open up their own practice? Somebody who's gone to school for so long. I'm always saying that. I'm like, a lot of people go to school for so long, and I understand that not everybody's made to be an entrepreneur and made to be a business owner. But the ones that are, I feel like sometimes we need that extra push or that extra the sign from God to say, do this. So what would be something that you would say to somebody in that position?
Would say that you can expect that there's a learning curve in the process. You're going to have to kind of feel your way through it. I wouldn't encourage an attorney to go out on their own straight out of law school.
Okay.
It takes time to master what you're doing. Um, clinical professionals, no different. You know, young doctors go to their residency for a reason. They work on with a team of other doctors and people more advanced in their careers for guidance. And lawyers do the same thing. You end
Right.
up being an associate in a firm. Initially, maybe a clerk while you're in law school, and then an associate when you come out. And you know, bite the bullet. Do that for a few years, even if you really want to be on your own. And I sort of did from the beginning, meaning had an intention that I would own my own practice and have control of my own destiny before I ever went to law school. But that's because I had built up other businesses, and had some success before even going to law school. And so I knew A, that I could do it, and B, that I
Mm-hmm.
had the skill set to do it. And but I also recognized that failure to develop my skills as a young lawyer would have been disadvantageous for me as a business person, and potentially damaging to clients, because it takes as long as it does to become a decent lawyer. Some lawyers never become decent lawyers. That's just my opinion.
Wow.
I,
No, and it's okay for you to say that because some doctors are not decent doctors.
that's right. And some engineers aren't great engineers, and so on.
It's everywhere.
I look at, I've had instances where in my career where, I look at opposing counsel and I think, how did you get a license to practice law? But at the same time, I have a level of respect for what it takes to get a license to practice law or medicine in the United States, in Florida particularly. It's my experience, but um, so at a certain level, I respect it. But at the same time, I just think, gosh, you need to hone in on your competency because you're well off the mark. And who knows, maybe other attorneys look at me the same way sometimes because I'm willing to make arguments that others may not be willing to make. And I've had substantive discussion with judges in court, and I recall one judge threatening me with sanctions. And I was certain I was right about my legal position. And great judge, really smart guy, but he and I just saw things differently. And was questioning a witness on the stand during a hearing, and he stopped me, and we were dealing with some procedural stuff. And the judge threatened me for sanctions in front of the other team of lawyers and my client and the paralegal and all the other staff in the courtroom, and he gave me a hard time. We went back and forth for probably 20 minutes. It felt like much longer, but it's like, Judge, bear with me, and he ended up calling a sidebar. We figured it out, but I recall that judge ultimately saying, "Hey, Craig, he pulled me and the other attorney aside in the hallway and said, I don't want anything I've said to disparage him. He's a great lawyer. He's pursuing his client's interest, and ultimately I did rule in his favor." So, and then at the end of the hearing, he complimented me on my willingness to make that argument, to stand my ground, to do so professionally. And he ruled in my favor, and more importantly, my client's favor. And so some lawyers just never get there. They're just not either. They're not bright enough or not bold enough to do it.
I agree.
No.
I agree. And to own and run and be the attorney of your own practice, like what has that done for you in your life and your lifestyle? I know that you were talking to me about you've had all the cars and the house and now you just want peace. I think we all get there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people and a lot of CEOs that run successful businesses or people that make a lot of money, they do speak on that we momentarily, are always chasing, and it's good to always have something to chase, but then there's a moment that everything is just, it's not enough anymore, and all you want to do is just have peace and quiet. So running your own practice and being an attorney and dealing with all that, like what has that done for you as a professional?
I think more important than anything, being in control of your own destiny by running your own firm or company like you do gives you flexibility and control over your life, your schedule, your earning capacity, et cetera. And so you can find a better life balance. And that's what it does for me. Working for a law firm, you're expected as a young associate to maintain hours. They care what time you get there, and they care that you don't leave before like a specific time. But they don't mind if you stay till 11,
No,
12, 2 in the
not.
morning on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday. They don't mind that. And you don't make any additional money. You just paid a salary. They require you to bill a certain number of hours on an annual basis to substantiate that salary. Usually it's many X what they're actually paying you. Maybe they're paying you 100, but you're billing 700, 800 a year. And so if you don't mind working for 100, doing the work to earn 800, but getting paid 100, then stay with a big firm, and you could tell everybody, "Hey, I work for this big, powerful firm," and you could beat on your chest and tell everybody how important you are. And the reality is for me to out earn an associate at a firm, a big firm, I could work 1/10 the time and earn the same money, if not more in reality. So from an economic perspective, it makes a lot of sense. From a obligation, burden, a responsibility perspective, you got to be prepared to shoulder that because you are where the buck stops.
Yeah.
And so like you mentioned, like payroll, just making payroll. If you can bill clients, but if they haven't paid you and payroll's due and there isn't money in the account, then you're either going to a credit line or you're doing a capital infusion personally to
Mm-hmm.
make payroll, right? And so that's just a simple thing, but trust account management and staffing issues and all the things you deal with, there's a never-ending supply
No, and
of
we all
things
go
to
through it.
tend
It's
to.
everywhere. Even
Right,
McDonald's goes through these things. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
What has it done for your personal life?
I have tremendous flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Would you
If
change
I
it?
don't,
Would you go
my
back and
calendar,
change
as
it?
busy as I am, my calendar is not, um, every minute of my day is not calculated out, right? And so,
And it's very nice, I can say, to come and go as you please.
yeah,
And be able
absolutely.
to take vacations and be able to spend time with your grandchildren and with your
That's right.
children when you want to. I
Yeah,
feel that with my daughter. It's so important to me to be able to be there for her volleyball games and for her school shows or whatever it is. So the girls that I also have on my team, I allow those things as well because as a mom, I get it that our children, they need us.
right.
But as a business owner, and I say that all the time, for people to actually pay for things that they don't want to do. I know it's one of the businesses that you had before, to have somebody else do it
Yeah,
to open up more time,
right.
because as a business owner, I feel like we tend to, what I was saying earlier, we pass the puck on to our team and have them oversee the stuff that we no longer have time for, or it's no longer needed of our supervision. And then we make more time for the stuff that we like to do. But if you wanted, I don't know if you golf, but if you wanted to go golf on a Wednesday afternoon, can you go?
Yeah,
Can you
generally.
take a week trip to Europe right now if you want to?
Yeah, I try to travel about 6, 7 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you worked for a big law firm, would you be able to travel 6 or 7 times a
No,
year?
I'd be asking, some office administrator, hey, can I take a
Mm.
vacation? Can I have the day
Can I
off?
have my PTO
I
days?
remember when I was working for a law firm, when I first out of law school, I had other business endeavors, and I was doing really well. I was earning about uh, 7, 8, 9 times what the law firm was paying me. So if my salary was whatever $100, I was earning 1,000 outside of the office,
Mm-hmm.
but I still had to sit there and tolerate the inconvenience of working. There's some conveniences, but there's in my entrepreneurial mind, it's a lot more inconvenience than convenience to work for other law firms or other companies,
I
really.
agree.
Yeah.
I think what you should do is you should work for another company. I said this on another time that we were here. But I believe that as an entrepreneur, if you're trying to get into a business, or like what he said, if you're fresh out of school, you need to learn, you know what I mean, exactly what you need to do. You need to spend time in an office that's doing exactly what it is that you are projecting that you're going to do later on in the future. Learn their ins and outs, the business structure, the way that they run their office, what kind of employees work well where, because personality, I believe, is everything in a lot of things that have to do with business. But learn it, and then you can produce it in your own way, and you put your own twist on it and your own, your own experiences, and how you were mistreated in one business. You're going to make sure that your employees are not mistreated in your business. And like what you just said, that freedom is everything.
Right.
I even say that I have an in-home housekeeper, and I pay her weekly to oversee my things in my house, my laundry, my dishes. I'm not a woman that likes to do anything like that, and I don't expect anybody else to do it, because it's my house and I have to do it.
Right.
So I pay somebody else to do it. But what does that do? That opens up my time to be able to be here with you, to have more time with my daughter, to be able to travel. And so I think any entrepreneur, anybody that's looking to go into business, should definitely just do it. Don't even think about it. And I think you could agree with that, because it's.
Right.
Would you go back, and would you go back if you were to be able to go back now, knowing what you know? Would you change would you change the fact that you opened up your own practice, or you would keep it as it is?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's
Yeah.
there's there's no chance of it.
No,
I've
and the
actually
financial
been,
freedom, it also in for your family.
yeah,
I can tell you that my business is what has given me and my daughter the life that I'm so thankful that I'm able to provide for her. But if I were to go back knowing what I know now, I would have done this a lot sooner.
Yeah, there are a lot of beneficiaries besides our own selves,
Yeah.
like myself, Craig Temple, right? That benefit from my willingness to take risks,
Yeah.
to invest in myself, to build my skills, to build my degrees and credentials that are needed to do what I do. Um, and there are a lot of other people, who I've willingly helped. I do some pro bono work as well, you
It's very
know,
nice of you.
but I know I'm in a recruiting phase at this point where I'm looking for to bring an associate on board, bring in another qualified paralegal, um, and it's about, I think us as entrepreneurs, right, struggle with delegation.
Oh, yes.
We're in certain ways a little bit control freaks, and it's not. It's something that has to be managed, right?
But the
You
reason,
know.
but the reason that we have come so far is because we are a control freak, because we know what it is to not have. We know what it is to struggle. We know what it is that when we can't make payroll, that same employee, okay, that just made a mistake or that didn't do things how you asked them to do or whatever it is putting you at risk, because now the client doesn't want to pay you because you didn't do right by the client. And we have been so blessed to be able to have Craig Temple here, my attorney. He does construction law, contractual law, business law, and also family law. Craig, you're hiring a paralegal and assistant director right now, right?
An
Okay.
associate attorney and a paralegal. Yeah.
Okay. So if you guys are in studying, are you taking interns?
Not really interns at this
Okay.
point. We're looking for someone with some level of experience.
Okay.
Maybe a year out of law school, looking to get into a more meaningful position.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you love to change lives and you love to help people. So if
I
you're a
do.
person that wants to change lives, you want a great mentor as an attorney, Craig here is going to take you all the way to the top. Craig, where are you located? Where's your office?
I'm up in Jupiter, but we serve Monroe, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach.
Okay,
I have cases up in Orange County,
beautiful.
Hillsborough, so
Is
all
this a
over the state
remote
of Florida.
position that you're looking for, or do you need someone in office? Or do
Yeah,
they have to do both?
yeah, remote's fine.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you're a paralegal or an attorney and you guys are looking for somewhere to scale yourself as an attorney to learn from the best, he's here and he's looking for you guys. Thank you, Craig, so much. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Lotus Care at Home. If your mom or your dad, a grandparent, a family, your children, somebody else's children that you know need any services at home, please contact me and my team. We're here to provide the care. I'm going to be bringing a lot of invitees that I have in mind to bring to you guys. So like, comment, and subscribe below.